Hi everyone, welcome to Spilling the Soup, a Nintendo podcast, and this is episode 3. We're going to be covering all the latest news and updates from Nintendo, and as always, we have all three of us working for Nintendo Soup, a Nintendo-related fan website, and I am William, a reporter for the site.
I'm Todd, the reviews editor.
And I'm Liam, I'm a games reviewer for the site.
And yeah, we are here again. If you call us on YouTube, thank you so much for listening to episode 1 and 2, which are out there. Feel free to comment as well if you have any answers for the question of the week. If you have any other stories that you want us to cover from the website that you found interesting, always feel free to share that there as well. But yeah, what have you guys been up to this last week? Yeah, that's Nintendo related, gaming related. How are you guys doing in your near September end phases, I guess?
Man, this month has really flown by, but lately I've been playing a lot of Tetris 99. I still have not won, but I've got second place a bunch of times, so I've been playing a lot of Tetris 99, and of course getting started with the new Link's Awakening remake, which is a lot of fun so far.
Nice. You got second? I've got it like 10th maybe is the highest.
I have come in second. That's my best.
That's pretty good. I'm jealous about that for sure. How do you feel about the new like daily accomplishments that they've added to the game?
I think it's good. It gives you something to work for to unlock all the different themes, which are all really cool. I like the Kirby event. I can't remember if they did that. I think that was this week, but it had a really cute Kirby theme that you could unlock. So yeah, they're doing a lot to keep Tetris 99 alive.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I thought it was gonna be free and maybe they're gonna find a way to commercialize it, but they really have like a full plan for that game. It feels like it because they have the physical edition coming out. They have the paid version where you can play offline and you get the extra bonuses, which I'm a little mixed about, but it's a free game and it's just a skin, so I'm not too upset by that. Like you said, it's gonna keep people coming back to it, which I think is the big goal for them right now. I finally got enough points from doing the daily achievements, and I could only get one skin, so I went for the Zelda skin, which I think is pretty neat with the music that plays for that.
Oh, cool. I don't remember the name of the skin that I bought, but it's another cutesy one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a bunch there now. I wonder if they're ever going to bring back the limited like event ones as things that you can purchase there, or if those are going to be exclusive. Because right now I'm going on there and checking every week. Okay, what's the event one where I need to get 100 points and just automatically get the skin, because I do not want to miss any of them, even if I don't.
Right, I missed a bunch of the skins so far, so I hope they come back.
Oh no! Oh, I think I have them all, so I've been pretty happy about that. But.
Oh, that's good.
I got a puppy recently, so my life is pretty much dog related at the moment.
Oh, that's great. What's the puppy called?
Her name is Leia, after Princess Leia.
Oh, that's so cute.
And she's a blonde cockapoo.
Oh, really?
Wow. Okay. Is this related to your birthday you had last week?
No, we got her the week after my birthday. But she's an absolute terror. I don't think much of my belongings are going to survive.
Oh no!
I'm sure you'll get her in line.
Oh, I hope so. I don't think I'm gonna have much left by Christmas.
Jesus. All right. Well, we'll send your support over.
Thank you.
But yeah, good luck with that. Puppy's a big task for sure. For me, gaming wise, I have been tackling some of the other routes for Fire Emblem, and I now have mixed thoughts about that given some news that we have about the upcoming DLC for the game, so we'll get to that in the hot plate section. But other than that, I think I have been... What have I been playing? Oh, yeah, I've been playing Smash recently. definitely for the tourneys that they have there, because that's been pretty fun and honestly gives me a little more incentive to play than the just regular Smash Online, because I actually get a spirit from it, which I think is kind of neat, even though I don't play a lot of the adventure or the spirit board mode. But it still gives me something to walk away with, because you get it if you win or lose, which I think is pretty neat.
Oh, that's cool.
And that covers the simmer, so now we'll be moving on to the news section, which is called the Hot Plates. Now, this article's been out for a while, but I definitely want to cover it because, as I mentioned, it's for a game that just was recently released, but looks like it's going to be supported for a while longer, and it is about the Fire Emblem DLC. So the article is titled "The Contents of the Fire Emblem Three Houses Wave 3 and Wave 4 DLC Have Been Revealed." And this is by Iggy, so you can check it out on Nintendo Soup's website. And of course, I'll include all our articles in the description down below. So just going through the article, the latest Fire Emblem Three Houses Perfect Guide published by Famitsu contains some interesting information on upcoming DLC. On one of the pages of the guidebook, the contents of the Wave 3 and Wave 4 DLC have been revealed. Both waves include free and paid DLC. As there are potential spoilers, full details could be found after the image below. That's just an image of the game. So for the Wave 3 free DLC, we have new playable character Juritza, who is available on certain routes only. New support conversations, which we're assuming are with Juritza. New activities and new online features. And then we have the paid DLC, which is a new playable character Anna, and new monastery facilities, new online, and we don't really know if those are features or something somewhat related to that. Anna and Juritza Paralog, new quests, around 10 we are looking at right now at the moment. New activities, including the sauna, which has been teased throughout the game as a location, and you can see, and it kind of shows a little indicator above it that it's a location, but you can't really do anything there. And, of course, playing with dogs and cats, which is what this game was built for, clearly. New costumes, maid, butler, and more. New battalions, maid and butler, which makes sense. And that is it for Wave 3. So for Wave 4, we have, looks like only paid DLC, so nothing free is coming in this one. And Wave 4 includes a side story, Abyss Mode. New playable characters, Juris, Baltasar, Constance maybe, and Javi, which are the tentative translations of these characters' names. And then new support conversations, new monastery facilities, new online features, new classes, 4 to be precise. Yeah, which that sounds pretty exciting. New enemy monsters, new hero relics, new paralogs, new quests, battalions, gambits, costumes. So, there's a lot there, and has me a little hesitant to actually go on the other routes, knowing that this content is coming, because I am definitely curious about Juritza. I'm not going to spoil too much about what happens to him in the game, but I just finished Blue Lions and Black Eagles, and I'm assuming he will be relevant to one of those two routes more than the Golden Deer route. And it has me questioning, just, am I going to have to play again to do that? Which is most likely the case. I kind of don't want to necessarily do that. But the amount of paid DLC and the amount of other features coming in Wave 4 also make it seem like it might actually be a pretty good chance to play the whole game over. But this isn't coming out completely until April. Is when they're expected to release Wave 4. So I'm kind of conflicted about holding off on the game where I am now or continuing.
Yeah, for sure. So I have not played Fire Emblem Three Houses, at least not yet. But just looking at that list of all the DLC, there seems to be a lot there. You know, new activities, new costumes, new battalions, new classes. I mean, just looking at that list, there's a ton there, and it's I guess it's coming out. You said in April for the Wave 3, Wave 4.
Yeah, so Wave 3 is coming out in one of the next few months, presumably, and then Wave 4, they said that the content's going to stop around April, so Wave 4 is probably the latest. The latest that Wave 4 would come out is most likely April, though they've had some scheduling changes with things. I think the Wave 2 came out early because they were patching the game with Byleth Mail's new voice actor, so it's just kind of an estimate of when it's going to come out, but that will have been over half a year from when the game originally released. But yeah,
that's pretty good.
Just to get an idea of your guys' familiarity with the series, have you guys played Fire Emblem before? What's your experience with the game?
To be honest, I played it through about half of Awakening, and that's it.
I did play Three Houses, and I got so far, but then there's been so many Switch games coming out recently that I haven't gone back to it, and I don't think I'll go back until the DLC's been long out. There's just so many things to play at the moment.
Definitely, yeah, because right after Fire Emblem came out, I felt like we've just had non-stop releases, but it looks like you guys might have lucked out in that case because you have all this new DLC coming, which might make the game feel more complete, and you won't have to replay it necessarily. But yeah, I think you benefit more from this addition to the game if you haven't played it as far as I have, or as far as other people have. Like, I know people who have completed all 3 routes and sunk a good 200 hours into this game already.
Oh, yeah, a few of my friends have done that too.
Oh, yeah, so it definitely seems a little unfortunate, but it's $30 total for all of the paid DLC. About $30, give or take. I wonder how much of this was supposed to be scheduled to be DLC, how much was just stuff that they didn't have time to put in the game by the time it actually released.
See, $30 is pretty good for what you're getting for that paid DLC, because there's a lot of things that you covered in that article. So $30 is pretty decent.
Though I am happy because if you guys are familiar with some DLC for past games, the game that came before this one for the Fire Emblem franchise was Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia. Yeah, and that was a remake. Yeah, and that was the first Fire Emblem game I played. I sunk about 40 hours into it, which I thought was pretty good. I haven't played that much of a game in a while consecutively, and I definitely loved doing it. But when I got to the end, since it's very narrative driven, there is very little to do after the game is over. So I looked to see like what the DLC is about, if that's worth it properly, which in the end I didn't decide on doing for 2 reasons. One, Fire Emblem 3 Houses would be coming out in just a few months since I bought that game this past May. And 2, guess how much the total DLC cost for the game?
I don't recall, but I think it was a lot.
You are right. It was $40 and a few more cents, I think. The game itself cost $40. So... Wow. Yeah, it was something that I totally was not aware of when the game released. People were pretty outraged that the DLC costs more than the core game itself. There isn't a lot to do post-game, so that was kind of what you were left to do. But also the structure of the game itself was that the DLC included the final classes of each of basically all the characters. So to buy that, I think was about $15, and people were begrudgingly paying for that because it was needed if you wanted to actually complete your units in order for them to reach their final stage, basically.
That's so super frustrating.
Yeah, it's just really weird that was not included as part of the main game, because that's where it's always been. So I'm wondering if these 4 classes are going to be one singular line, or if they're going to be additions to other things. because now basically all the classes in the game have a good progression where you upgrade up to, I think, 3 times about. So that feels pretty complete, which I like. So I am curious about what this new class might be. I could see it potentially being an upgrade for the assassin class, which is only a 3rd stage and might need a 4th stage to actually have a secondary sword in the master division. I think it looks pretty exciting. I'm just not super happy about the staggered release of this necessarily.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not exactly a short game, especially if you want to play through all 3 routes or all 3 or 4 routes. So once you've played all that and then they add all this new stuff to the game, you got to go back and play it again. So it's a little annoying that a big chunk of the game is being held back like that. But hey, I guess if you're a patient gamer and you wait for all the DLC to release and for the price to drop, get a used copy, hey, you can take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the patient gamer definitely gets a lot from waiting for this one. But yeah, I'm excited when it does eventually come out. But I think I will not play the Golden Deer route quite yet. That may not matter in the end for some of the things like the certain route supports or characters, but at least I will benefit from waiting to get the new modes, the new locations, and anything else. And keep in mind, I actually haven't paid for the DLC yet, which kind of is, I think for me, has been also kind of like a positive, like I haven't put in the money yet and then have to wait for this to come out necessarily, but I'll probably end up paying for it when it does release.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on Fire Emblem? Are you guys going?
Nope, not for me.
Not for me. I'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, definitely. It's a commitment for sure. All right, moving on. We have another article, and this is from Galago, one of our writers, and the title is Rumor: Pokemon merchandise plans might hint at possible Generation 4 remakes. Fans of Diamond and Pearl could be in for a treat soon based on a new and intriguing discovery. PokeShopper, a reputable enthusiast of Pokemon merchandise, has unearthed some interesting movements happening behind the scenes. Namely, various manufacturers seem to be ramping up reproduction of merchandise for Generation 4 Pokemon, including Arceus, Palkia, Dialga, Pachirisu, and more. These products appear to be heading to shelves sometime in 2020, implying a major refocus of the Sinnoh region again. How is this discovery important? When Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Eevee were headed to Nintendo Switch last year, the Pokemon Company similarly ramped up production of Kanto merchandise in late 2016, early 2017, thereby boosting attention on Generation 1 Pokemon. If history is repeating itself here, the Pokemon Company might be preparing to hype up fans for possible HD remakes of the Diamond and Pearl in a similar manner. So, what do you guys think of this rumor? Are you guys excited to see a Pokemon Diamond and Pearl or possibly even Platinum remake? What do you guys think about the merchandise leak?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Diamond and Pearl was the first Pokemon game that I skipped, so I don't really know much about this region or much of the Pokemon, so I'd be quite psyched to go back and cover this one.
So Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was the first Pokemon game I played. I think I mentioned that in episode 1. But it's also my favorite region because it's pretty much the only Pokemon game I've played through all the way. I mean, I think a lot of people expected it with all the other remakes they've been doing. Gen 4 remakes have been something that fans have been wanting for a long time. So I'm definitely excited to see that happening. I mean, we know it's going to happen. The only thing is I'm not sure how that will work because we know that in Pokemon Sword and Shield, they're not including the national dex. They're not including every Pokemon every Pokemon ever made. But in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, it had all Pokemons from all previous generations. So it would be interesting to see what Pokemon would be included in that game if they do remake Diamond and Pearl.
That is a very good point. I didn't even think about, actually, is if they, for remakes moving forward at this point, are they going to include all the Pokemon that were in that game originally? And Pokemon Diamond and Pearl had about 493 already. So yeah, I'm very curious now. I'm glad you brought that up about what they're going to do in that situation. I could see them potentially replacing some of the Pokemon that were in that game with newer ones from Galar or other regions that have come after that. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't mind that too much, actually, since there is a lot of, I think, some filler Pokemon or not filler, because I don't want to say any Pokemon's filler, but more that there's a lot in there that they were just trying to include in the game because they, in an article and an interview I saw earlier with Masuda, he was saying that they were planning for Diamond and Pearl to really be the kind of ultimate Pokemon experience, a pre-Pokemon home destination for basically every Pokemon that has existed at that point.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they could give it a similar treatment, but also include Pokemon that make more sense for the region and the just location on the map where you include them. I would love for there to be more fire-type Pokemon in this region, because if you aren't aware, there's literally only the Chimchar line, Magmortar, and Heatran as the new Pokemon that were included for Generation 4.
I was not aware of that.
And what's more ridiculous, if you beat the game, you might know, there is an Elite Four Fire-type member, which makes no sense. And if you look at his team, in Platinum it's a level better because they actually include Magmortar, but he has basically Infernape, Magmortar, I think Rapidash, Lopunny, Drifblim, and something else. So I do not understand why they decided to go with that typing for this region.
Wow, that makes perfect sense to me.
Right. I see. I can get Drifblim because it's a hot air balloon, but I don't really understand Lopunny unless I'm missing something here. Maybe they were hinting.
I think I can explain this one. It's because Lopunny is hot.
Oh.
For all the furries out there listening.
Okay. I was actually considering that they were hinting at Scorbunny coming out. It was already a prediction of a fire-type rabbit coming in the future. So
I don't know. That's a bit of a stretch.
But think about it. It's going to go full cycle because within Galar, we're going to get references to Sinnoh, and then we're going to go back and we're going to find out that Elite Four member was actually from Galar. So he's just like, oh yeah, rabbits are here, are fire-type too, and then it's going to be a whole thing. Just trust me on this.
Okay, sure, I'll buy it.
Love this region as well. I would be so happy if they brought this game back, because it was definitely a big jumping on point for a lot of people, and I think showed a lot of the strongest points in Pokemon up to that point.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for just the underground to return if they bring that back.
Oh, that'd be awesome! You could go online and you could actually go with people. I think I did that maybe 3 times ever with friends.
Really? I did it a lot with friends, like building your secret base and putting in traps and finding fossils and stuff. It was so fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I did not have that many friends who played it, and I think we would always forget the underground. I think for me, it was mostly the ability to trade wirelessly that was a big draw. Because up to that point, you needed a link cable. And now with this one, I could finally get Pokemon like Feebas or other starters. I remember I was on a plane once with some other kid who had the game. And I don't know how we knew, how we saw that we both had the game. But he traded me his Chimchar for my Medicham because he needed a stronger Pokemon to beat a gym. And what he didn't know is that he didn't have enough badges to control the Medicham, so he was like, hey, why isn't your Medicham listening to me? And I was like, oh, sorry, I thought you had more badges. But that's how I got. That was the first time I ever got a starter besides my own in a Pokemon game. which is pretty
Okay,
cool.
can I tell you something funny? When I played Pokemon Diamond, I was like 12 or 13, and I could not choose just one starter Pokemon. So what I did is I started the game 3 times and traded back and forth with my friend so I could use all 3 starter Pokemon throughout the game.
Oh my god, that's great. That's the dream as a kid.
It's a dirty cheating thing to do, but I had so much fun with it. But the only thing is, though, like you said, with the not having enough gym badges for them to obey me, I had to make sure I didn't level them too high. But yeah, I had a Chimchar named Cheese, Turtwig named Olives, and Piplup named Pepperoni, so they were all pizza toppings.
Also related to that, I saw a video recently where someone went through Sinnoh without catching a single Pokemon. If you do that in Platinum, you actually get a full party of 6. You're given, I think, 5 Pokemon as you go through the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that was a really neat addition to it, and that's why I always recommend just go Platinum, because it makes things a little easier. Diamond and Pearl, you can get Eevee from BB, who is the PC manager, but only post-game.
I remember BB's Eevee.
Yeah, BB. And in Platinum, you can actually get Eevee right the first time you meet her, and that's by the time you have 2 gym badges. So you actually get an evolution to go with you. I think one of the first times I got Espeon to go with me in my playthrough. But yeah, as you go through, I think you can get your starter, an Eevee, a Togepi, Porygon, Riolu, which goes into Lucario, and one other Pokemon, which I can't remember. But yeah, you have a pretty cool party, I'd say, if you just go with
with not even catching anything. That's crazy.
I can't remember what the last one was, but and you can get through it if you make your Eevee evolve into Vaporeon, because you need to surf across. But pretty cool team. Yeah. All right.
I'm so glad they took out HMs.
Yeah, I was about to say that. But yeah, I would also love to see some more merchandise. If I could get like a Riolu plush or get like a Happiny plush. I have like a little Pokeball toy that you can throw and like have Pokemon come out, and one is a Happiny, but I'd love to have like a little one that I can place around as well. Okay, so moving on from Pokemon, we're going to talk about another remake, actually, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. So this comes from one of our writers, RG, and the title is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening managed to hit the top of the EMEAA charts. It seems that The Legend of Zelda's Link's Awakening was quite a big success, as the game managed to hit the top of the charts, with it even beating Borderlands 3, which released last week.
Oh, wow, that's a surprise.
Right? And it was in retail sales, to be specific. So for the last week ending on September 22nd, 2019, we have The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening at the top, followed by Borderlands 3, and then Grand Theft Auto 5. Number 4 is NBA 2K20, and basically all shooters and sport games after that, except for Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which was number 7. So yeah, what are you guys' thoughts about that?
I think it's good to see the sales of the game doing so well. It's a really well-made remake.
Agreed. I also think that in part because it's a pretty kid-friendly game, that a lot of people or parents are buying it physically to give it to kids. So I could see that being a factor in its success for retail. But it's just really fun to see a Nintendo game like that take the top of the charts. Have either of you guys gotten the chance to actually play it?
Yes, I'm actually writing a review for it for the site. I have not made much progress so far, but stay tuned on nintendosoup.com for my full review coming out in the next week or two.
Oh, awesome. How about you, Liam? Do you have any experiences with the game?
Yeah, I've played some of it. I haven't got that far. I got stuck in I think it's called the Mysterious Forest, almost instantly. I was like, what the hell? It's like right at the start. But I agree with you that it's probably sold so well because of the more kid-friendly aesthetic. It's probably a good intro title for younger gamers to the Zelda franchise. So yeah, that's probably why it sold so well.
Yeah, and if I think about it more, it makes sense if you want to get a young fan or a young gamer into Zelda to give them this game, because other than that, if you have Breath of the Wild on the Switch, a rhythm game in the form of Cadence of Hyrule, or Hyrule Warriors, Hyrule Warriors might not be too bad, but if you want them to get a truer kind of RPG experience, it makes sense to go with Link's Awakening for a younger fan.
Oh, that's true. I mean, you look back at the Wii U, and it had just about every single Zelda game in existence that you could play on that system, whether through the Virtual Console or remakes and remasters. Pretty much every main Zelda game was available on the Wii U, but not yet on the Switch. We're still waiting to bring over, Twilight Princess HD, Wind Waker HD. We have not seen those brought to the Switch yet, and I don't know why.
I'm wondering if maybe next year or so they'll end up coming, or if we'll get like a remastered version. I could see why they might be holding off on Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, because they've already done that for the Wii U, which might have been like, for them, might be like, oh, we just did this, let's hold off so we don't become.
They've already brought over pretty much every big Wii U title so far. We're still missing, Super Mario 3D World, I guess Pikmin. Star Fox Zero, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Pikmin, Wonderful 101. So there's still a bunch of games on Wii U that haven't been brought over yet, but you look at the overall library, and most of the big first-party titles have been brought over to Switch by now.
Yeah, well, I meant specifically more that those two games were on other systems already, for like the GameCube, and I think at least the Wii for Twilight Princess. So they might be like, oh, we just ported those, so maybe we should hold off a bit. And also they might not want to make it their version of Resident Evil 4, which is literally on every system always and forever. So I could see that being the case, but I definitely would love to see those games over, since I also maybe have put 2 hours or so into Twilight Princess on the Wii, which I actually played on the Wii U, because I could, and I didn't want to buy the remastered because it hadn't come out yet. Link's Awakening is the second time Nintendo has remade a Zelda game, as far as I'm aware. Is that correct?
I don't think so, because just on the 3DS you had Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask remakes.
That's true. I think I always struggle with that, because they're remakes, but they have the same kind of skeleton, and with Link Between Worlds and Link's Awakening, there's a whole modernization of it. And a lot of it felt more graphic based for the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but I could definitely see those considered as part of like the Zelda remakes.
Yeah, I think for me, Link's Awakening, it's like a completely rebuilt game, so it's completely different from the original. So for me, things like Ocarina and Majora's Mask on 3DS don't feel the same as Link's Awakening, because it is still very much the same sort of graphical power of the original N64 ones. I don't see them doing Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword onto Switch unless it's just an actual port. Would I love to see them do full remasters of these games? Yes, because they're totally the best ones, but I don't see it happening.
Oh man, I love Skyward Sword so much. A lot of people complain about the hand-holding and all that, but even just the motion combat was so fun. The dungeons were amazing. The art style was perfect. It's my favorite Zelda art style.
I hated the final boss, though. Oh, I could not do it.
I've only seen playthroughs of it, and there's one guy on Twitch who has been, I think, on and off with the game now for about 6 years. And I don't remember how far I've seen the game go to, but it seems like it would be cool to see like a definitive edition of it, just to maybe see the pacing or some finesse put into the controls a bit more, just to make it a little more receptive and a little easier to jump into. But overall, I think it's really cool that they did Skyward Sword as the kind of origin for the whole Zelda franchise.
Yeah.
And looking at the full remakes and not necessarily because I think that's what I'm trying to get at with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, is that those feel a bit more like the definitive edition versions of the game rather than from the ground up remakes that we got with Link Between Worlds and Link's Awakening.
Link Between Worlds and Link to the Past, those have a lot in common, but they are totally different games. I would not classify that as a remake at all.
That's true. I think people have referred to it more as like a spiritual successor or a spiritual reimagining of Link to the Past, but it's very similar in the nature, and I think the marketing also kind of says, hey, this is kind of like Link to the Past, if you want to have that experience modernized, basically. And both of those games are actually in the same timeline according to the Hyrule
Historia, I think.
Thank you. Yes, the Hyrule Historia classes both those games in the same timeline. So I'm wondering if Nintendo's going to keep to that and maybe also do or branch into other timelines from the Zelda franchise to remake those games. But overall, this leads into our question of the week. Which Zelda game would you like to see remade and brought over to the Switch, presumably?
Leave those answers in the comments below.
As we've discussed, I think we've actually talked more about games that we would not like to see re-put, or at least likely not brought over to the Switch, which were Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. I think since these last two have been like, I actually don't know for Link Between Worlds because I haven't finished it. But for Link's Awakening, it doesn't feature Ganon or Ganondorf as a villain. I would like to see one of the games that does feature him and has like the Triforce and lots of the classic Zelda mythos put into it. Just so I think I'll be more incentivized to buy that game if it includes those elements.
So you want the Triforce instead of the Chain Chomps and Goombas everywhere?
But, yeah, I kind of want the Hyrule stuff and less Mushroom Kingdom.
Okay, that's fair.
But not that I have anything against them. It's just that I really want to learn more about the core of the Zelda franchise, and I've always been interested in the story behind the Triforce, the reincarnation of its holders, and the whole dynamic between Zelda, Link, and Ganon, which to me are what I associate with a Zelda game typically.
Yeah.
But yeah, are there any games that you would like to see remade?
I would go with Skyward Sword, but I would want it in the full graphical style of Breath of the Wild. That would just be like the best game ever.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that sounds awesome actually.
Could you imagine Skyloft with that sort of Breath of the Wild aesthetic?
And like I said, I think the Skyward Sword art style is my favorite. I put it a notch above the Breath of the Wild art style myself. Not to put down your opinion, but I would be very disappointed to see that art style changed if it's ever remade. Now, the thing about Skyward Sword, though, is it's such a unique game with the combat. Like, every aspect of the items and the combat is based around the Wii Motion Plus accessory and the Wii Remote Plus motion controls. So it's really hard for me to imagine how they would possibly remake that without revamping every single element in the game.
Yeah.
What if you do a remake of Skyward Sword in VR?
I'm not so sure about that.
I don't think we'd see that this hardware generation. I don't think the Labo VR is quite up to the task.
Okay, well, at least if it's not part of this one, maybe eventually, would you like to see a Zelda game done in VR?
And that's really hard to say.
No, I don't really like VR, to be honest.
Like, I have a PlayStation VR, and I do love VR. I just don't know if that would be much of a better fit at all.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle I've seen with some of the Nintendo games, is that lots of them are typically platformers or games that you kind of want to see your surroundings at all times. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like lots of that doesn't translate necessarily into VR. But if Nintendo wants to experiment that and make it successful, I feel like they need to make games that make sense for that.
There's actually I'm just going to interrupt a little, sorry, but there's actually a great VR game called Astrobot Rescue or something like that, and the gameplay is very similar to Super Mario 3D World and 3D Land.
Oh, okay.
So it's just got, you're looking down at your character, it's not a first-person thing, but it works really well in VR because you can look around things, look behind you. So I think, a 3D world in a VR platform, that would be really amazing.
Yeah. Okay. I actually tried a VR game a couple of years ago on the Oculus Rift. It was Super Lucky's Tale. It was just a demo, but it was great because it was things that was like when you were going to jump to a platform, very much like a Mario game. You could actually lean forward and look down to see how far the gap was, so that you could okay, can I make this jump? And so I think VR and Nintendo, when games like Super Mario and stuff could work. Zelda, I think, could be a little bit trickier.
Yeah, it would have to be something built from the ground up for VR.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I think a Zelda VR would be incredible, but it would have to be done right. Sure, now I'm just imagining things like, Metroid Prime VR. Oh man, that would be just moi. That would be amazing.
That would, I'd love that.
Yeah, I would love that too.
All right, so moving on from VR, we're actually going to go into AR, with Pokemon Go issues strikes and bans to players using certain, I'm going to butcher this, Xiaomi phones? I forget.
I think something like Xiaomi.
Xiaomi, thank you. Okay.
Just reading that more or less phonetically there.
Xiaomi phones.
Or don't buy me.
There you go. And this is written by Yeoman on Nintendo Soup. Like most online multiplayer games, Pokemon Go often issues strikes and bans to players that it detects to have violated the terms of service or to be cheating with hacking tools. However, it seems that in Niantic's attempt to lay down the law, some innocent legitimate players may have gotten caught in the crossfire. Over the past few days, several Pokemon Go players have reported that their accounts have been hit with strikes or bans without having done anything to warrant such action. After collecting data on the complaints, Pokemon Go subreddit Sylph Road found that the bans seem to be hitting those who use specific models of Xiaomi phones, specifically the Series 5. At present, users on the Sylph Road have been continuing to gather reports and attempting to reach out to Niantic for an explanation. However, as at time of this writing, the developer has not issued any official statement about the issue. Hopefully, Niantic will come out to address the problem soon and return access to the players who were unfairly banned. So, start off, has anyone heard of this phone?
Yeah, I think
it's like a Chinese phone.
Yeah, it's a Chinese company. I think they're pretty common and they're, pretty inexpensive coming from China.
Interesting. Okay. I've actually never seen a specific phone series been hit by bans from Niantic. So I'm wondering if this is a first-time event. But also, kind of unfortunate to see this coming out, especially after Pokemon Master seems to have had issues not being available on all phones. Of course, Pokemon Masters comes from DNA. I'm just thinking about like, hey, if a new player is trying to get into one of these games, has this phone, and goes in and they're getting banned from Pokemon Go without doing anything, and also can't download Pokemon Masters, I'd be kind of mad at Pokemon and not know who to direct that at.
That's a bit disappointing.
I'm surprised
Liam,
people still play Pokemon Go.
what? Well,
Yeah, I haven't played it. I haven't. When it first came out, it was an absolute. I don't know for you guys, but it was an absolute nightmare over here just getting the game to work.
Oh,
really?
really?
Like, yeah, you would find like a Pokemon and you'd like throw the Pokeball and then it would just like load and load and load and then the thing would freeze and you'd have to restart the app and they didn't catch that Pokemon. So it just was. It was crazy popular. It was on like national radio and national news. People talking about it. But there were so many people on it, it just could not be handled. So it made the game almost unplayable for at least a month here. I played it for a few months after that, but I got bored.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I played it a lot when it was, a new thing, and it was an absolute explosion of popularity. It was like Pokemania from the 90s all over again. Like everyone and their mom and their dad and their cat were playing the game.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear that, Liam, because I don't know if that's been the experience with Pokemon Go internationally necessarily, but I feel like reports that I have heard have been that in the US was where it worked most consistently. So it's intriguing to hear how that was not the same across other countries.
It doesn't help that it was nothing but Ratatas where I live.
That's true. That's I think one of the big things that people who played Pokemon Go and then stopped don't know necessarily is that the first year was pretty buggy and there's a lot of things that they were trying to figure out, because I think the team had about at Niantic was 4 people to start off with, and then as the game exploded in popularity, 4 is about an estimate. I'm not super sure on the number, but I knew it was really small. And as the game exploded, I think they grew a lot, and now they're closer to about like 20 or so. Was the first thing I heard. But yeah, they just didn't expect it to blow up, and they weren't ready to handle everything, especially like outside of the US itself. Like they could barely even focus on one country. Nowadays, you still have about 5 million players going out and using the game. The company still makes about $1 million a day from people.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's still crazy popular. I think they've done a lot of fixes and a lot more consistent updates to help with that. It's definitely not perfect, but there's a community in basically any place I've been at where I can easily find them on Discord or in like a Facebook group, and there's people arranging raids, people doing alerts for new spawns. We just had the Unova Pokemon come out actually for Generation 5, which has been another kind of upgrade in popularity for it, just because whenever a new region drops, there's more people out there trying to catch them. But
I'm still trying to catch all the Gen 5 Pokemon they're adding still.
The first week, I've only saw the shadows in the bottom right showing that there's new Pokemon, but they would never spawn for me, and I've still only seen like 3 of each maybe, and so I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's one of the bugs again that they're working with.
I've caught a lot of Lillipups so far.
Oh really? I think
everywhere.
That's been the most common for me, but still very rare in compared to all the other Pokemon that just spawn from other generations. But yeah, any other thoughts on this Pokemon Go news?
I don't think so. Let's move on.
Awesome. Okay. So now from another article from Galago on Nintendo Soup. Nintendo's share price takes a fall after the Switch Lite's launch in Japan. So last Friday, the Nintendo Switch Lite finally launched worldwide, offering a handheld-only experience for fans of the console. While sales of the device have been decent so far, it looks like investors are not quite as impressed. According to several analysts, Nintendo's share price dipped by about 3.5% since the new device's launch. This was in part due to the console selling only around 117,000 units in Japan since launch, far below what investors' forecast of 300,000 units moved. This investor, Citi, commented bluntly that the cheaper system was attracting fewer casual gamers than they presumed. Additionally, other analysts have observed that Nintendo shares could be headed for their worst one-day performance in around 8 months. As things stand, it looks like Nintendo fell a little short of some high expectations. Hopefully holiday sales and the release of Pokemon-themed Switch Lite consoles will turn things around. And in an update, other analysts such as Dr. Sakan Toto have weighed in on the matter. Apparently, Citi may have set its expectations too high in tandem with overly negative reports from Bloomberg, which caused investors to panic unnecessarily. You can read more about it at the link in the article below.
I think we should read that linked article as well, because it does offer some more information. Want me to go ahead and read that one?
If you have it, go for it.
Sure. So the article is by Iggy. It says, "This is why the Switch Lite caused Nintendo's stock to plummet." This week, Media, Create, and Famitsu revealed that the Switch Lite sold between 114,000 and 170,000 units in Japan. And despite that being actually a pretty impressive start, the share price plummeted by 4% in the US, wiping out a whopping $4 billion in the company's market value. Nintendo is a huge company. They're not failing anytime soon. So the Dr. Toto has put out a report detailing what happened. Now, Citibank put out a ridiculously optimistic projection of 300,000 units and declared the sales to be a little soft. So the thing is, the Switch sold about 300,000 units in the first 3 days, and this is just a revision of the Switch targeted to more casual gamers that are not likely to rush out to buy a console immediately after launch. So the 300,000 unit projection was kind of outrageous. So Dr. Toto declared that the drop in Nintendo's value was a big joke or even a scandal. So it just goes to show how volatile the market is.
Yeah.
That's some really good context for the console as well. That the Nintendo Switch was a new console when it came out. It was its own iteration, and it's the next part, or the next console coming out from Nintendo. Well, this is more like is literally the light version of that. So it's not expected to do nearly as well when it launches, because that's just stick. So there's a bit. It almost feels like a bit of drama here between the investors and Nintendo. But I'm glad to see that we have Dr. Toto also explaining the context for that, because people are going to panic really easily. But seeing how it compared to the Nintendo Switch as a new generation of consoles for Nintendo, it's really, as you said, it's doing pretty well in that regard.
Yeah, I think as well, I don't think it was released with the right game. I mean, Legend of Zelda is a fantastic franchise. Obviously, we all love it. But to me, that feels more like a franchise for Nintendo gamers, not necessarily casual gamers. I think if they kept the Switch Lite and kept it for the launch of Pokemon Sword Shield, I think it would have easily surpassed the 300,000, because parents would have just been buying it by the bucket load for kids' Christmases.
Yeah, and I definitely predict that's going to happen once we get closer to the holiday season.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then you have stores bundling the game and the console together, because it just makes sense for them to do that. But as you mentioned, Zelda's great, but this is also a remake and something that if you didn't know about and the original game came out over 20 years ago. So I see a lot of people not really understanding what this game is if you're a younger gamer or like a parent who isn't necessarily too informed about what the Zelda franchise is about. Just being like, oh, like maybe, but I'm not gonna rush and say, oh my god, I have to get the Switch Lite 4 to go and play this Zelda remake necessarily.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen the Switch Lite discounted at all since it was released?
No.
What was
that about?
Discounted here already. Yeah,
What?
it was retailed at £200 here, And I've been seeing offers on websites selling it for 170, so that's like £30 knocked off it already.
I do think I saw an article on our site reporting that as well, maybe, but I'm not too sure about that.
I did, and where was the offer? So it was the Switch Lite, turquoise one, with Link's Awakening for £200. So that's like $240 maybe.
What? Did you get it?
No, but I just quickly think Switch Lite's £200. The regular Switch is $280. So for £80 extra, why would you not just up to the better? Well, not necessarily better, but the one that's got the more features. That just seems really obvious to me. But yeah, £200 for a Switch Lite with Link's Awakening is a steal.
Oh wow, that's pretty good.
That is, yeah, but that is a good question. In terms of why wouldn't you upgrade at that point if you're getting the game? And I mean, I kind of see the appeal in just having the Switch Lite without having to worry about the Joy-Cons. You have the D-pad on there already. It's just kind of simpler in some ways to give this to a kid and like, hey, you don't have to worry about getting them like a new Joy-Con because you're probably not going to expect them to get games that require external motion controls. So I see that appeal to it, and if you're looking at it from an adult perspective, or an adult buyer who has more disposable income, then yeah, it makes sense. Maybe just hold off and get the full Switch experience if you can wait a little longer. But if you're getting it as a present and don't want to worry about like all the other things that come with a Switch, because there's literally hundreds of accessories for that, the Switch Lite might be just a simple one item to get.
Yeah, I think it's definitely for more casual gamers. I don't know about you, but I don't have any personal interest in picking up a Switch Lite.
Me neither.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole appeal of the Switch is the ability to play it on the TV or in a handheld mode. So switching it out for just a handheld only, I don't get that appeal.
Yeah, I like it. Like, it looks cool. It looks neat. And the colors.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
As I talked with Liam last week, we talked about just the color schemes seem really unique and pop out compared to the Switch. But it's just not something I'm interested in at the moment, but maybe in the future if I want to give it as a gift to someone, definitely. It seems like a kind of neat choice for someone who's trying to get into Nintendo. But yeah, any other thoughts about the Switch Lite and the stock scandal, as was mentioned?
I think that's everything for me on that one.
Yeah, same here.
Cool. Okay. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with some updates about the sales and deals that you might find on the eShop. So stick with us. We'll be right back. So we're moving into the final portion of the podcast. We're actually going to cover some sales and deals on the eShop. And Liam, I think we might want to start off with you, since Todd and I are both on the North American eShop. So if you have any over in the UK that you want to share, or the EU eShop, that might be a good way to start.
Sure. The first title that I would recommend for our listeners is Wargroove. That is down 40%, so it's $9.59. I've played this on Xbox, and if you are a fan of the old Advance board games on the DS, then you should definitely pick this up because it is a lot of fun.
Nice, that's awesome. Anything else on the EU eShop that you might want to check out?
Cuphead, don't know if you guys have played that. Cuphead is currently on sale. I can't tell you how much because I've already purchased it. But that's a lot of fun, so if you're looking for something a bit different, definitely check out Cuphead.
Very good game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish we had that on sale, but you might get a little jealous after all the sales that were actually going on this week for the North American eShop. Todd, do you want to start off?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm looking at the Crash and Sane trilogy. That's 40% off. So you get 3 games remade for just $24 or $23.99. That's one I'd recommend.
I have Transistor from Supergiant Games. It looks like that and Bastion are 2 of its signature games that are 80% off. Last time it was this discounted was when I bought it immediately. So you can actually get Transistor for $4. Normally it's $20. And I love this game. I still don't know how close I am to beating it. I kind of don't want it to end. But super fun game and highly recommend.
Awesome. I'm just looking through the list here.
Okay.
Untitled Goose Game. That's still 25% off. I think it launched with a discount.
Yes, I think the discount will be ending on the 4th of October. And just so people are aware, if you're listening to this podcast in the future, usually the discounts end by Thursday of the following week. So you have until then to check those out. But always just check the eShop to make sure, since sometimes those will vary if they're like a publisher sale or a launch sale per se.
I'll just say to all our listeners as well that the games mentioned by Todd and Will are also on sale on the UK eShop. So if you're in the UK and are interested in them, check them out.
Do you have the Final Fantasy games on sale also?
Let me have a check.
Because it looks like everything except Final Fantasy VIII seems to be on sale. I'm not sure why. Maybe because that is a more recent addition to the eShop, but everything else.
Final Fantasy IX. Okay. That's the only one I see just now.
Oh, okay.
But there's a gazillion games on sale at the moment.
But yeah, there's at least, it looks like there's a bunch of sales on both our ends, so I would highly recommend checking that out. Oh, one game that was on sale and I actually did pick up this week was Wizard of Legend. Have either of you guys heard of this one?
Yeah. I have heard of it.
So it is a roguelike where you play as a wizard and change out your skills to like cast fire, freeze opponents, zap them with lightning, etc. And you go around dungeons and like dash through enemies to get to the next level. I have not beaten the first level yet of this game, but it seems pretty fun and has a reliable co-op mode. So if you do want to bring it out with friends, you can definitely play it there as well. So pretty fun game there, and that is off about 33%. So it's on sale for $10 now. And there's also the Ori and the Blind Forest demo, which doesn't look like there's a sale for the game itself, but that game is also now available on the eShop if you want to check it out.
Looks very good.
I'm very tempted to get it, but I also want to save and wait till I get Pokemon first before buying any other games this year, hopefully.
That's fair.
Again, our question of the week is, what Zelda game would you like to see remade? Let us know in the comments below, and we might even read those out loud next week on episode 4. But this has been Spilling the Soup, a Nintendo podcast brought to you by Nintendo Soup. I've been William.
I've been Todd.
I've been Liam.
And we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Have a good one.
See you later.